everyone, my name is Chasen, founder and CEO of SP Motorsports. Today we're looking at a Stage 4 suspension kit for a 991.2 GT3, including a set of 3-way MCSs. We're going to be talking about what sort of performance gains we can see with the suspension and what sort of feedback it delivers for the driver. Over here is what we would designate the Stage 1. It really encompasses the full necessary adjustability for these cars. We're looking at adjustable thrust arms. We've been utilizing this design since like the 986s, 996s. Worked out really well for us. We even have a bit of adjustability in terms of anti-dive characteristics that we can actually dial in depending on the driver preference. The next thing we have over here is adjustable thrust arm bushings. So the factory one that comes from Porsche, they are a rubber bushing. The whole idea behind that was to reduce road NVH, make the car a little bit more comfortable. However, braking and cornering characteristics that you see on track, you get a lot of flex in it. So by us changing those out and having ability to make quick adjustments between these two positions, that really helps tighten up the front end. It makes the car feel a little bit more sharp, a little bit more tight, and overall just driving experience really increases quickly just with these. Over here are the adjustable drop links. These are super important for getting cars dialed in. So if you end up running stickier tires, need more camber, this is sort of the initial first step that I would take to really get a chassis setup done with any track GT3. Basic necessities taken care of. Now we start thinking about the next steps. So in our Stage 2, we continue to address just adding a bit more chassis rigidity. Over here is our rear wheel steer monoball bushing. So what happens is on the rear wheel steer system, that's already a movable piece. And what we want to do is just reduce the deflection that it sees, which inherently will change how your car feels under acceleration or braking just due to toe change. So by removing the rubber bushing, we insert these in there, and overall just adds to a little bit more tightness coming from the rear. So these are our adjustable front tie rods. They are pretty much optimized in terms of the front bump steer. We don't actually see too much crazy bumps here, which is nice, especially when we get pretty aggressive with ride height. But overall, in terms of steering feel, again, just removes that factory bushing and really enhances the steering feel. Stage 2 also includes these inner lower control arm monoballs as well, which again, allows us to add any additional shims. But again, main concern is just removing that rubber deflection from that front lower control arm. And especially under braking, you get quite a bit of deflection from the rubber, especially as you continue to drive and the car gets hotter and hotter. The rubber gets a little bit softer and softer, a little bit more malleable, whereas a racing monoball keeps that tolerance very tight continuously. So just in terms of overall driving feel from a 20-minute session, the car might feel a little bit looser, a little bit less sharp towards the tail end, whereas upgraded components like these, it just maintains that steering feel and driver feel throughout the whole session. So that's our Stage 2 package. This is where we start to get into the more dedicated track use type cars. Once you start to get to the Stage 3, Stage 4 is all rear suspension. The 991 GT3s have like a 7-link setup in the back in terms of attachment points. So we address basically all those attachment points from all the multi-link rears, the long, the medium, the short arms. The rear gets addressed with its own inner lower control arm monoball. So very similar to the front, again, changing it out with a really tight precision monoball. Helps keep that rear end nice and planted and steering feel really tight. We start looking at getting the outer control arms on the front side also starting to get dialed in with this, fully billet outer lower control arm. Super strong, super durable. Bearing is a really high precision bearing and rebuildable actually, which is really nice. So we can actually, if these get worn out, we can actually pop these out and replace those. But these things are super stout. Overall, much more precise steering feel, braking feel, everything, especially on the front end. Yeah, and that's pretty much the bulk all the way up to stage 4. Over here is the 3-way track race damper package from Dundon and Motion Control. This set also includes a front axle lift, which is really nice for street use. The customer does still plan on driving it to and from the track and maybe some Sunday drives. Didn't want to lose too much street ability, and so with the rates, with the dampers, and Dundon getting all of this sort of sorted with Motion Control, it's a really great bolt-in package. We've used it quite a lot. Really happy with the valving, the quality, and the performance of these dampers. So having the ability to control rebound, high and low speed compression is a really major tool. The real benefits really just come from being able to adjust the dampers as you need. It can be throughout a whole day, making changes session after session. So understanding how to utilize your shocks is something that we spend a lot of time with our customers on. We want to educate them and have them play with it themselves so that they start to understand what these changes actually do. Really powerful stuff. Love these shocks. So overall, I would say this is definitely a very comprehensive package, and the reason why we designed these packages in stages was to really help facilitate people getting into the sport, or sometimes we've gotten drivers that came from other cars and wanted a similar feel, like they've had a race car but now they just want a street car, but they want that race car feel. This really gets it there without necessarily saying, hey, let's strip the car down, let's turn into a full-blown race car. We can get the car to feel very similar. I'd say 85-90% there, but for example, like the front axle lift, it still maintains streetability. We spend a lot of time in terms of making sure like what the durability is for these bearings, especially if you street the car or track the car. We kind of run it through its paces, and this is the type of stuff that I've been using for a lot of my cars, for the past 10-15 years. So let's get these on the car.
So working on this 991 GT3 with our SPM Stage 4 suspension setup. Currently working on the front. So there's really going to be two main benefits with this suspension setup. First being drivability. The monoball bearings actually help a lot with stability while driving and cornering. Second main benefit is going to be the adjustability. Especially on these cars, when you start to run more negative camber, it starts to push the caster forward in the front, and it can rub up here and lead to worse driving conditions. So when we add this thrust arm, we can actually even that out and push it back as we bring the wheel out more. So up here we have our lower control arm, inner monoball, thrust arm, outer tie rod, drop link back here, and then our MCS through it remote suspension. In terms of this upgrade, we really just have to pull all of the old arms off, measure them, get our base length set, pull the old shocks out, In the front, it was actually easier to take the carrier off. In the rear, it doesn't make as much sense because we have the axle, and when we pull the axle out, we have to replace the nut. So leaving the carrier on in the rear makes more sense. But overall, it's really just pulling all the old stuff off, making our base adjustments, putting everything back on, getting an idea of what the alignment's at now, measuring everything, and then making the adjustments as necessary.
All right, so we finally got the suspension kit completely onto the car. We're super excited to really get this thing on the road and to the track. We're really looking forward to seeing how the driving dynamics of the car with now the three-way suspension and our Stage 4 suspension kit really help the driver with confidence and feel. We're gonna be trying to see if we can get the driver confidence up more with the new dampers. Typically with the three ways, we're now allowed to really hone in and focus on controlling the tire wear, the body roll, and all that with the low speed and high speed compression rebound. So we're going to be playing around with that quite a bit, especially with the first outing in the car. Outside of that, we are very excited to deliver this to the customer, and we're looking forward to seeing what we can do on track.